sometimes say that if Mozart or Beethoven knew the Steinway, let's say, that they would have preferred it. And I would say that there's no way that we could prove that one way or another, but one thing is rather clear. To the extent that masters such as they would have written exactly the pieces they wrote for the Steinway, rather than the instruments which they had, to that extent they would be rather poor composers. Because one writes for the acoustical and aesthetic properties of the instruments at hand. And one cannot separate the masterworks of music from the forces and the instruments and the vocal training which is associated with these things. And this instrument, which is not merely a period piano, but the very piano that Mozart employed in composition and in his performances in the last decade of his life. This, of course, although it has been subjected to rebuilding and replacement of certain parts, which happens inevitably, still gives us a very, very good idea of how the instrument felt to him physically and how it sounded. These Viennese instruments are a little bit different from those that were developed at more or less the same time in England. The English pianos had much slower hammer speeds than the Viennese ones. The velocity of these instruments is so quick that it makes them ideal rhetorically for speaking. So that's why there's an enormous vitality and vivacity to this sound because the hammers strike the strings so quickly. And they're not big felt hammers, they're small little wooden hammers with a tiny bit of leather on them, and the leather gives an ictus so the consonants, the p and the t, come out. So for me, the voyage of discovery in playing on period instruments is to move in a world, both physical and, as I say, emotional and aesthetic, that is inhabited by the geniuses who wrote this music. It brings us very, very close to them, and it doesn't mean that we can be sure that everything we do will be identical with that which was done 200 years or more ago, but it certainly gives us a sense of what is expected, because every instrument wishes to be played in a certain way. And you either learn that and you get the instrument to sound the way it wants to sound, and then it will do anything for you, or you fight it. And if you fight it, you will lose the battle. So sitting down at Mozart's piano, or sitting down at an organ which Bach played himself, you understand things about the weight of the keys going down, and the repetition, and the balance in sound, and all of these things bring you very, very close to the music and make you say, aha, so that's why it's written that way, which is not a kind of thing that you're going to guess if you're playing on the standard instruments that are being manufactured today.